Hi everyone, in this video we're going to be taking a look at English Language Paper 2 Question 5. Now specifically in this video we're going to take a look at article writing. We're going to look at how to produce a high level article for your GCSE exams. Now if you haven't done so already, please can you like and subscribe, it really does help us out when you do so. Look at the words and attempt the challenges that follow. So the words we're going to focus on first of all are aggressive, violent, deadly and unpredictable. So the first thing I'd like to think about with those words in mind is, can you come up with a definition to each of those key words? If you're not too sure what they mean, don't worry about it too much, you can always look it up on your phone or in a dictionary. Then if you can stretch yourself a little bit more, go for the super challenge. I'd like to try and explore the connotation of each of the key words and what do you think they're relating to, what do you think they're in reference to. So if you're not too sure what we mean when we say a connotation, what we're saying here is the association you have with that word and the other things you associate with it. So for example, if I was to say the colour red, for example, the connotations of that might be danger, it might be violence, it might be blood, it might also be romance as well. So it's anything really that comes to mind when you think about one of those words. And then for the mega challenge then, I want you to have a look at the statement on the next slide and analyse what the writer's viewpoint is. Now, if you've heard this before, then that's absolutely fantastic, because this is what the whole point of English Language Paper 2 is focused around, and that is understanding the writer's viewpoint. So if you're able to do that, you're on a really good stage to start understanding some of the key things for Paper 2. Look at the statement below. What does it tell you about the writer's viewpoint? So it says then, I believe the government is right to ban the breeding of XL bulldogs. 90% of people who own them are aggressive and pass this behaviour on to their pets. The dogs are bred to be deadly. Personally, I would never trust them, they're too unpredictable. Whenever I see one on the street, I am all too aware of how deadly they can be. So what I'd like you to think about before we move on is, why is word choice important when you're expressing your views on a topic? Now if you think about the words that we looked at in the previous part, we've got words like aggressive and violent and deadly, all of which are creating a viewpoint of the writer. So it's important that you're able to zoom in, identify things like the word class, so is it a verb, a noun, an adjective, and also the connotations as well, to fully understand the viewpoint that the writer is trying to convey. Think, pair, share. Look at the exam question below and discuss the topic with the rest of the group. So what we have here is a very typical kind of question that you might get for your paper 2 question 5. So it says there, these days, many people are scared of dogs and the potential threat they present. The government is right to ban the breeding of XL bulldogs because this type of dog is more likely to cause harm and injury to people on the street. Write an article for a dog breeding website in which you argue your point of view on this statement. So a good thing to do is to try and stretch and challenge yourself and think about, what do you know about this topic already. It is something that's been in the media really this year quite a bit, because there have been a lot of fatalities with this kind of dog breed. Also, if you're not too sure, do check out our previous video that goes into it in more detail as well. Now, if you want to plan your actual response, you can use a planning sheet to start thinking about structuring your response. A link of that will be included in the description as well, so you can start thinking about putting your plan together. And there's a little bit of extra information here on task 3 that goes into a bit more detail about the topic. So the first thing that you do, if you have that sheet in front of you, would be to break down the question. We're going to focus on what is the topic, the audience and the purpose of the exam question. Now this is really important because the exam questions are quite long-winded, so we need to think specifically what is the examiner asking us to focus on. So first of all then, for the topic, specifically we're going to talk about banning the breeding of XL bulldogs. The audience is the next part. Again, that's going to be very important because it's going to tell us who are we aiming our writing towards. And this is going to help us to understand the type of language and the kind of tone that we need to use in our writing. So for the audience, we can tell from that part there that it's people who breed dogs. And the final one, the purpose, would be to argue, use persuasive language to help your ideas flow on the topic. When we say persuasive language, we of course mean De Forest techniques. Now hopefully you feel quite confident about those ones. If you're not 100% sure what I mean by this, don't worry, we're going to go through those together as well. Task 2. So write a sentence for each De Forest technique. So as previously stated then, the techniques we're going to need to use are De Forest techniques, and they should look something like this. Now hopefully by the time you get into the exam, you would know all of these off by heart. And all you'd have to do is write down the letters in red, and then you can tick them off as you go through to make sure that you're actually going to include these in your writing. If you are going to do a plan, then a good thing to do is just to come up with a few draft sentences, and you can do things like this. So if we have a look at each example, I want you to think what deforest technique is being used. So for the first one, for example, I believe there are many responsible owners, however. So again, one of the deforest techniques, or more than one of the deforest techniques, would have been used in that example. So we can see there, because they're saying I believe, I think, I feel, it would be an opinion. And then we have a discourse marker. So if you're not sure what we mean when we say a discourse marker, this is the word that helps direct the flow of your conversation. So if we're going to say however, it means we're going to go against the previously stated point. So we might say, I believe there are many responsible owners, however, the breed tends to attract a lot of people who have more negative intentions, or something like that. Okay. The next one. Owners are presented with challenges, obstacles, and serious issues on a daily basis. Now it's important to note that I'm not going to go in order for the deforest techniques. Not all of them will be appropriate for the question or the type of response that you'll need to produce. So the one that I've used here, for example, is a triplet or a group of three. So we know that because it's three things towards a common goal. So challenges is 1, obstacles is 2, and serious issues is 3. Next we have, don't we have the right to have the dog breed we choose? And that's a rhetorical question. Next we have 90% of dog owners treat their animals well. And that would be a statistic. Next we have, who doesn't want to feel safe while walking their dog? And of course that would be another rhetorical question. So hopefully you can see there, I haven't used all of the deforest techniques, but what you should hope to aim for is using a range of techniques within your writing. And that's a little bit vague really how they phrase it in the exam paper. But when we say a range of techniques, for a question 5, we're talking about 5 to 8 kind of language techniques as well. The deforest techniques are really good for persuasive writing, but feel free to use similes, metaphors, hyperbole, any other technique that you think might be appropriate towards your argument and your writing. Task 3. Look at the text below and be ready to respond to comprehension questions that follow. So here we have our full text then. Again, it's the same thing that would be available on the A3 sheet if you want to access it via the link down below. So it says then, from December the 31st, new restrictions are being put into force, making it a legal requirement for XL Bulldogs to be kept on a lead and also muzzled when around members of the public. From February 1st, it will now be illegal to own one without an exemption certificate. This new law came about after reports showed an increase in attacks from these dogs and the unfortunate loss of 23 lives. Many vicious attacks have involved this specific breed of dog, which has sparked a nationwide debate on the subject. People are asking, are the dogs themselves to blame or their owners? Statistically speaking, 60% of all dog attacks occur with XL bullies or similar breeds. An official spokesman from the NHS has stated that, due to the vast power these dogs can generate from their jaws, means that the wounds they inflict are often worse than from other breeds of dogs. Despite this information, however, many people would still place the blame on the owners rather than the breeds themselves. When looking at the behaviour of a pet, many that have been harmed, neglected or abused by their owners are far more likely to be aggressive when faced with new people. Should we ban this breed of dog, or should the government invest more time and resources in educating people on better dog ownership? So if you'd like to pause the video here and read through it in your own time, please feel free to do so. We're now going to jump ahead and have a look at our comprehension questions in the next part of the video. Use the extract to respond to the following questions. So we have 5 questions then, all based on the extract that we've just went through. So number 1, all dog attacks are from XL Bulldogs. Is this true or false? Try and select a quotation to justify your answer. If you're not too sure what we mean when we talk about a quotation, we mean selecting a piece of evidence from the text to support your point of view. Number 2, identify where the writer has used a statistic relating to dog attacks. Number 3, identify where the writer has used a rhetorical question. Number 4, has the writer used a professional opinion? Select a quotation to justify your answer. And our final question, from what date will dog owners need a certificate to own this type of dog? So if you are doing this online, please feel free to pause the video, go back, have another look at the text, and we're going to jump ahead now and go through the answers. Class feedback. Check your answers against the correct ones. So for number 1 then, we have false. Many vicious attacks have involved this specific breed. So we're not saying that all the attacks are from XL bullies. Number 2, a statistic would be 60% of all dog attacks occur with XL bullies or similar breeds. Now it's important that when you think about the actual writing question, we're not expecting to go away, be able to research the question in depth. You can come up with statistics and also make up your own facts within the writing, because we're not expecting you to know every single topic that might come up in the exam. Number 3, should we ban this breed of dog, or should the government invest more time and resources in educating people on better dog ownership, or are the dogs themselves to blame or their owners? So each one of those would be a rhetorical question. We know because we've got a question mark at the end. Number 4, yes, it does have a professional opinion. An official spokeswoman from the or spokesman from the NHS has stated. So whenever you get something like this, if you're going to create a professional opinion yourself, you can even make up an institution, make up a person, and make up a fake quote. And it's a good idea because you can really kind of add a bit of levity and importance to what you're trying to say. Final one, number 5, was February the 1st. It's important as well to stretch and challenge yourself, to use the ideas from the text and then try and embed some of those in your actual writing when you do your response to the exam question. Look at the exam response and attempt the challenges that follow. So here we have someone's actual response, okay? So they've said, with the rise of injuries from dog-related attacks, many people are concerned about dangerous dog breeds like XL Bulldogs. Many people say this type of dog are aggressive, unpredictable and violent. Conversely, many other people would argue that dogs are aggressive because of the environment in which they are raised. With hundreds of responsible pet owners up in arms around the country, many people are asking, who is really to blame? So what I'd like you to think about is this an effective response? Try and be ready to justify your answer. Now obviously this isn't the full response. Now if we're talking about GCSE English, then you're going to have to produce around 5 paragraphs for your response. This would only count as an introduction. So is it an effective introduction? Does it cover the topics that we need to be covered? Next one, super challenge. Has the response used any deforest techniques? And then the final one, I'd like to try and rewrite this response using your checklist plan to improve the response. So when we say with checklist plan, we're talking about our deforest techniques that we went through and the draft sentences that we came up with. And if you want to, you can even use this as an introduction to start your response. Often it is quite difficult to begin and come up with your own introduction, so feel free to use any of this in your own writing. And if you do feel like you need any feedback or any actual guidance on what you've produced, feel free to contact us and we'll try and get back to you with some feedback as soon as we can. In terms of our next lesson, then we're going to be going through the following things. So we're going to recall the writing question from this lesson, understand how to craft an effective response, and apply your understanding to draft and edit your own response to the exam question. So it's all about making sure you go back, you review, you get feedback on your work, and you try and make improvements as you go on. Now if you need any additional support or help, new videos will be added every single week. Alternatively, you can leave us a comment below or visit our partner channel Bookworm Teaching for more lessons and guidance on all things English. Thanks ever so much for listening guys, and all the best with your work and revision in the future. Bye bye.